recording is on. So now we just need to fill for a minute.
Like a donut?
Like a donut?
I really actually don't care for filled donuts.
You're a monster.
Like the cream just doesn't. I like the cream. I just don't like it in a donut. I'm just weird like that, I guess. But
Like
no,
what kind of cream though? Like is it the
any
jelly
cream.
donuts or just like the Boston cream? What is it you
The
don't
the
like?
the the, the jelly donuts. I can do like frosting on a donut, but I just don't want it to be on the inside for some reason. Whenever I bite in, I don't like that sensation, and I don't like the texture of it or the flavor. So it's pretty much not going to work for me. So let's not fill time like a donut.
Fair
Let's
enough.
fill like stuffed crust.
Scott Fry said, "Chewy, you can always go back and edit out the words later." Yeah, because that's a thing I'll do. You're so cute. Well, that's been recording for a minute and 20 seconds now, so surely the recording is kicked in, so we're good to begin. Plus, the YouTube people get to hear about Brian and his weird donut aversions.
Mm-hmm.
So, alright, here we go. Ow, jam! Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mana Pool. This is, I'm pretty sure, I actually did not double check the number earlier, but this should be episode 682. It is, of the Mana Pool. Yeah, we're back. We're not the man behind the mask. That's an obscure Alice Cooper song. Look it up
I
and thank me
am
later.
wearing black though. I'm wearing quite a bit of black, so I am back while wearing black.
I'm wearing Baby Yoda jammy pants. Does that count?
If they're black, I don't.
No, they're gray, but
Well, gray is like black light, so
I thought blacklight was purple. See what I
depends on the
did there?
purple. Ah.
Can you tell that it's been a while? We've forgotten how to podcast. But yeah, sorry about that. I don't remember all the reason. Last week, we were two dorks down. The week before that, I had to go see about a girl. And then the week before that, I don't remember that one.
I think we recorded then.
Yeah, I think so.
No, we didn't.
Really?
Yeah. Last episode went live on the 20th of June. So there was a valid reason that first one. And then we were all set to go, and I'm like, guys, I got a date. I don't give a damn about y'all because this new girl's amazing. And it turns out I was right, and it was totally worth. And then last week, like I said, we were two dorks down. Mike was like, I'm gonna do the show from my phone in the mountains instead of being with my family. We were like, stop. But yeah, so we're back now. I'm Chewy. Hello, the lead dork. I'm here to wrangle these other dorks. Am I a dork wrangler? Is that part of being a lead dork?
You are. You might be a dork herder.
A scruffy looking
on
dork
the
herder.
Scruffy side, yeah.
Years ago, so many years ago, when we started this damn show, I determined relatively quickly that I was like patterning my career as a podcaster after Kermit the Frog and the Muppet Show. I was the only sane person trying desperately to keep the insanity from taking over. And now I feel like I'm the source of the insanity.
And so, it's good that you have this self-awareness. So.
Yeah. But anyway, I have these other dorks here. Who are you people? What are you doing in my digital version of my apartment, let's say?
I'm Brian. I'm the lead rambler and tangent master of the group, and I guess all of Chewy's apartments belong to me? Yes.
I'm Mike. I'm the rules guy and the game lore guy. And in this digital version of Chewie's apartment, I have big cartoony eyes and no legs.
But are you wearing pants or are you Donald Ducking it?
That's a pretty zen question for an
Let,
avatar with no legs.
let's leave it to everybody's imagination. I think we broke Chewie a little bit.
And I'm Dirk, the self-proclaimed greenest man alive and moral compass of the group. And in this digital story and everything, I'm the one who is constantly running around, screaming and everything, and doing the little fist, like I'm gonna fight everybody dance, and I definitely don't have any pants. Oh, and I got a big bill.
He's Donald Ducking it in more ways than one. Oh God. Oh, now my head hurts. Okay then. So, hello chat and audience out there in TV land. No, that's old. Hello out there in podcast land. Unless you're watching on YouTube. Anyway, so we are back this week with an actual topic. We're not just chatting thing. We're not talking about Lord of the Rings. Finally, as much as I loved it, 3 episodes in a row I think was good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So
I am still working on the telling the entire story through the cards. Believe it or not, it is. It's at the tedious point now, so it's sort of a slow slog, but it is still being worked on. So this week we thought, well, Brian thought that it would be a good idea to dig up an old segment we hadn't touched in a while, and do a new entry in it. So if you don't like this, blame Brian.
sorry, I couldn't get to the mute fast enough.
That is Brian's response to you not liking this.
That was pretty perfect, I got to admit. Unintended.
So we are doing There's No Plane Like Home, which,
Yay.
if you don't remember, don't worry. I had to go back and listen to about 4 old episodes. Okay, that's a lie. But this is where we take a look at one of the many planes of existence in Magic's multiverse. Hey, multiverses are like mainstream now.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Like everywhere. Yeah.
And so we go look at one of the planes in Magic's multiverse and determine whether we'd like to live there by looking at all of the things that are going on.
Yeah. Political structures, how likely are you to live or die? That's kind of a big one. What's the food like? And, really, I feel like circles around to comfort and, how long you're going to live before you die. For example, some of the better ones are like Theros, and some of the worst ones are like Innistrad all the time, forever. Amonkhet also wasn't pretty good. No. Those are probably the 2 worst. Although that's always the battle downhill is a steep one, so...
Dude, that's a really good saying.
The battle downhill is a steep one?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I might have to patent that.
Did you make that up, or is that from something?
I just made it up.
That's good. I like that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
But truth be told, Magic is a game based on conflict. So pretty much the only time that they've really explored anything a little less serious was Lorwyn, and even that still makes its way back to Shadowmoor and conflict and all that weighty stuff. So, did we say which plane we're talking about this time?
Not yet.
Okay.
So why don't you tell us?
So this time, I thought we might do something very interesting. It's a plane we have not talked about before in any great depth. It is a plane that really, except for little cameos, has not been featured to any great extent since uh, the Weatherlight saga. So we're taking it back a ways. Was this plane featured in March of the Machines with a invasion card, a battle card?
It was. There was an
Yeah.
invasion of Mercadia.
Okay,
And it's pretty good, in my opinion.
so so Mercadia, yes.
Yeah, then Mike just
Uh,
totally gave it away there. Way to go.
that's okay. I was
Oh,
doing the
whoops.
slow
Sorry.
burn, but if you let me do the slow burn, it's gonna be another 15 minutes, and everybody's gonna be like, "Really? Come on, come on."
It's true,
So
yeah.
we're talking about Mercadia. So I have been exposed to it. I think the lore is kind of fascinating, but why doesn't somebody that was actually playing at the time that Mercadian Masques came out kind of give us a little bit of introduction to Mercadia?
I think that's just one of us, isn't it?
Is it just Mike? Because Chewy, you had played, but was that during your hiatus?
Yeah, this was during the time when I was not playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was playing and buying cards during that time. So this was when I was in high school. Let's see.
Oh, baby Mike.
I think so. Maybe like end of middle school, beginning of high school. This block was Mercadia, Nemesis, Prophecy. It actually jumped around between 3 different planes. Nemesis went back to Wrath, where Tempest was set.
Yep.
Tempest, Stronghold and Exodus. And Prophecy went back to a corner of Dominaria. So yeah, there was a lot of jumping around. Mercadia, the plane, is kind of named after a very important city called Mercadia. It's at the top of Mount Mercadia. The weird thing about this is that Mount Mercadia is like upside down. It's an upside down mountain, just kind of sitting out there in the middle of some vast plains. It looks pretty impressive. There's actually some basic plains art that features it sitting off in the distance. So you can get a good look at it. I don't know what number plains that is, but if you look up Mercadian Masques and go to the basic plains, you'll find it.
Isn't there also a non-basic land that shows it, or
Is there a non-basic?
no?
Yeah. There are plenty of non-basic lands where parts of the city feature, but the basic plains is the only one I can think of off the top of my head that shows the mountain in the distance,
Okay.
Yeah.
sitting there upside down.
I thought maybe that's the art that I'm thinking of,
Mhm.
but I thought that there was a non-basic land that showed it. But anyway, I'm not trying to slow us down.
Yeah, there's
So-
plenty of non-basic lands that show parts of it, but not like that kind of view.
But it's kind of like an ice cream cone.
Yeah, it's kind of like an ice cream cone.
Yeah, picture like your basic, boring ass, non Bob Ross mountain. So it's sort of round at the bottom. It's sort of conical, but the sides aren't straight. You know, it slopes up and some comes to a point, and then flip that upside down and put a city on top. There you go.
Yeah. Now, for this part of the introduction, do you want me to talk more about plane itself, or talk more about the cards in the set, and we'll get into other stuff about the plane later?
I mean, hell, I don't know.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
we
I mean,
put any
some of it-
thought into this.
We talk a little bit about the story and what kind of was going on at the time that
Okay,
brought
yeah.
it to our attention, and
That's
then we'll
right.
go from there.
We got here because the crew of the Weatherlight finally escaped from Wrath at the end of the Strongholds. Sorry, at the end of the Exodus story. They escaped through the erratic portal, and they didn't really know where they were going to end up. They ended up crash landing on Mercadia. They were kind of split up. Some of them were, arrested, captured. The ship was taken over, kind of stolen. Eventually, they all found their way back to each other at the end of the Mercadia story. When, then the story took an interlude back to Wrath for a little while. But yeah, I know Gerard ended up in Mercadia, and kind of falling in with the people there. I think I know Squee was there in Mercadia City too.
Only there. Yeah.
Possibly Tongarth. I don't know if I'm remembering that right. Orim, I know, ended up in Rushwood with the Cho'Arim, who they're the rebels. One of the themes of the set. There's rebels and mercenaries and free spells and all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So she was with the Cho'Arim, and
I want to pause for just a second, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw out one thing. The set has rebels. They kind of crash there in their ship, which their ship is impounded, and some of them are arrested, and they all meet up back together to escape. So this is the casino scene from The Last Jedi. Okay, continue.
Huh.
Yeah. And they come to find out through the story, during the story, rather. They don't sit and listen to the story to find this out. They actually live it. They come to find that Mercadia is connected to a big conspiracy related to Phyrexia's plans to invade Dominaria. So the big multiverse scale invasion that we saw in March of the Machines is not the first time the Phyrexians have tried to do something like this, but it was on a much smaller scale before. So they found at one point in the caverns underneath the city, in the mountains, like bunches of Phyrexian airships and war weapons, and I think even some portal constructs that were similar to what they saw when they went through the erratic portal in Wrath. And basically an invasion force staged there, getting ready to go. They were able to mess up some of it at the last minute during their big escape. Very climactic, very exciting. But that gave a hint of some of what was going to come next. And the invasion block did, in fact, come after this one.
Can I just point out how great it is that Mike, in his deadpan monotone voice, said very, very, very exciting.
Yeah, it was great.
Very climactic, very exciting.
It was. I mean, it's been many years since I last read these books. This was when I was reading the books.
Mike is trying to give us the 5-minute version of this story.
Yeah, so the feeling is kind of worn off. But
yeah.
But yeah, there was some conflict among the members of the crew, some perceived betrayal. Like Gerard actually led a Mercadian raid on the Cho'Arim in Rushwood, not knowing that Orm was there with them, and really not knowing what the whole deal was. So yeah, it's pretty cool. There's rebels living in Rushwood. There's a bunch of zombies and stuff in the deep wood. Out on the coast, there's pirates around Rashada. There are the Soprazo merfolk live out in the ocean. They're cool. The Soprazo merfolk are neat because they can switch between a big fin, tail for swimming, and legs for walking around on land. They can just do that. So that's a neat feature that they have.
Yeah, the first time that I saw merfolk cards that were dudes walking around, they were blue dudes walking around, I was very confused.
Mm-hmm. That's been
the spell shaper who's a bounce spell.
Yeah, waterfront bouncer.
Yeah, what?
Wizards for a long time struggled because every color had at least one or two iconic creature types. And for blue, the shoe-in was merfolk. But the artists were told, okay, these are merfolk, they're in the water. And it becomes constraining. So that's why later they invented the Vidalcan to be like, oh, look, a blue-aligned creature type that can walk around.
Yeah. And eventually they just said, you know what, merfolk can have legs, and just started doing that. They decided not to tie themselves down to the super traditional fantasy merfolk that just have a big fin.
Hence,
tail.
like Kiora, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, until they mostly stopped that almost immediately.
Yeah.
Because other than like Kiora,
The Merfolk on Zendikar, they have legs. I guess that they needed that so they could be adventurers all over the plane.
oh, I forgot about Zendikar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's where Kiora's from, right?
I
Yeah,
don't pay attention.
yeah, she is because she grew up like her tribe worshipped Kosi or one of the Eldrazi that they thought it was a trickster god until it turned out it was an Eldrazi. So yeah,
Yes.
Which, hey,
yeah,
good trick.
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Fooled you. Om nom 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 nom. So,
Kosi would be Kozilek, for those that don't know.
well, yeah, if you're nasty. So, um,
Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
Mike mentioned the the smaller scale of. Granted, at the time of Weatherlight, the Weatherlight saga, it was all building toward the Dominaria invasion, and the theory with that was when Yawgmoth and the old school Phyrexians invaded Dominaria because of its kind of position in the cosmos. From there, they could pretty much go anywhere they wanted. Now, fast forward, what, 20 years or wherever we are, geez, to March of the Machine, they have really put this emphasis on there's all these different worlds out there. So Dominaria being one of them, that's important, but much more of an emphasis on the whole multiverse. Hence, like the world tree being used, the Phyrexian world tree being used to go to different ones. But
Yeah.
this set is priming us for the big invasion on Dominaria.
Yeah. And part of the reason that invasion was focused on Dominaria was a little bit of Yawgmoth just wanting to take revenge.
Yeah. It was his home, and they kicked him to the curb.
Mm.
And actually, there's a book called The Thrawn, and it takes place before the Weatherlight saga. It's one of the earliest stories in
It takes place even before
chronologically.
the Brothers' War. Yeah.
Correct. Um, and Yawgmoth is creating, essentially turning Phyrexia into what it's going to be and starting to invade Dominaria, which is populated by the Thrawn at this time. And in an effort to get away, some citizens, along with some goblins, use a machine or something. I'll have to reread the book and get the details, but they kind of used an escape hatch and ended up on top of an inverted mountain on another plane.
Yes. They were the
So,
first. Um, yeah, they were the first human inhabitants of Mercadia, Mercadia the mountain.
goblins, which I'm sure the goblins won't be important later. So,
Right.
No, no.
yeah.
Also,
No,
hey,
there's
Al,
goblins.
thank you for that. What was that, 70-month resub? And he says, this seems like a not real number of months. Because for like the last 5 months, he was building up to whatever comes before 70. And now that he's past it, it just doesn't feel real anymore. Thanks, Al.
We are in the story when we come to Mercadia, when the focus is on Mercadia, in Mercadia Masques, the only set to actually just be set in Mercadia, and that's the focus, instead of just stuff going on in the background. It's the
Yeah.
most in-depth look we have at the plane, at its society, at its structure. And so, going back a little before that, yeah, it was originally settled, at least the city was, by some inhabitants that were runaways from Dominaria during the fall of the Thrawn Empire. What's not clear is whether or not there were other inhabitants of Mercadia, and this, like, if there weren't, and these were just, the people that went from here spread out over the plain, or if it's more like, Europeans coming to North America and just being like, oh, look, we got this place now. You see some people here? I don't see some people here. And just starting to build anyway. So,
Yeah. And the legend of how the people got there that was kind of passed down through the generations suggests that there were some people that landed in different places.
okay.
Because now that I think about it, the Ramos legend might have been told by one of the Cho'Aram, not by a Mercadian person.
Okay.
So
You remember these things better than I do. So,
Mhm.
What is the Ramos legend? It sounds delicious.
So the Ramos legend is about how
No, Brian, that's the ramen legend.
oh
Yeah.
right.
Oh, wait, different one. All right, sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Um, it is part of the human inhabitants' creation myth for how they got there and how the world came to be. So, in reality, Ramos was a dragon engine that was part of the Thrawn War. And no, wait a minute, is that right?
Uh, hell, I don't
No,
remember.
Ramos was part of the Brothers' War. Wait a minute. No, I'm confused.
That's why there's the link there with the from to the wiki
I
page.
know, but I am confused by what I have read in this link because
Oh,
the Thrawn there were Thrawn refugees who settled the place.
yeah, they were the first, or the humans in Mercadia City.
Okay, so there must have been two groups of escapees that made it. Since the Brothers' War happened, what, thousands of years after those events? So Ramos brought more people then. Taking more people who were refugees from the Brothers' War and ending up there somehow by chance.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's what all this information says. I had just forgotten that Ramos was part of the Brothers' War. I just assumed he was part of the Thrawn War, and it was all part of the same story.
Today I
Well, I
learned
didn't-
the Brothers' War and the Thrawn War were two different things.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
it
I mean,
true?
Urza and Mishra, mentored by Takasia, were excavating ancient Thrawn artifacts.
Oh,
So at that time, the Thrawn invasion, the Thrawn Empire, was already, well, literally ancient. So
Yeah,
a lot of time passed.
yeah. I mean, Yawgmoth was the one who corrupted Mishra, and it was Yawgmoth in his established, basically god form on Phyrexia.
Mhm.
okay. So what it says: the humans of Mercadia City were brought to Mercadia by the planeswalker Dyfed, who I've never heard of, to keep them safe from Yawgmoth during the Thrawn Civil War.
That sounds right.
And then Ramos, who was a dragon engine, crafted by Urza, ended up going through a Phyrexian portal and ending up in Mercadia. He deposited the merfolk in the sea, losing his power matrix in what would become Saprazzo due to a broken heart at seeing many refugees set aflame by the blast of the Silex, the Gothian Silex. The Rashadans fell off in the shore, the Cho'arim in the Rushwood. After crossing through what is now Mercadia, Ramos fell in Deepwood, where the fallen ghouls were animated by his last energies. He somehow created dryads from the trees to guard his bones, 5 power crystals, as well. So the humans were already here in Mercadia City, and then the great dragon engine Ramos deposited a bunch of other people.
Okay, I guess I had just forgotten that happened in 2 stages.
To be fair,
Yeah,
that
'cause it
sounds
seems
like a
kinda
whole
clunky.
lot of- yeah, it's a lot of exposition just through. There's a dragon engine and a wizard did it.
Pretty much,
it's,
yeah.
It's kind of like
Special
So-
blood.
special blood. I like it. So that's kind of the background. So Mercadia City. Fast forward to when our intrepid heroes aboard the Weatherlight arrive. What is the society like in Mercadia City? Since that's kind of the de facto capital.
It's a bustling city. Not industrial yet, so late Iron Age. I meant it's got just the art and the feel of it and the way it's set up. It feels like bustling European, a little Ravnica-esque for another Magic reference. But yeah, it's there are nobles, there are peasants, and in the shadows there are the goblins who seem to be the servants of the nobles, but are actually the ones pulling the strings.
Ah.
The Chiron goblins are super intelligent, unlike goblins in most other places.
Yeah,
Which is
that's
part of the
not
reason.
just compared to other goblins, because
Yeah.
like I've known some rocks that are super intelligent compared to other goblins.
Yeah.
They're super intelligent. Period. End of sentence.
Yeah, very crafty. And that's part of the reason why Squee, who is also way too smart for an average goblin, was able to get in with them so well and actually rise up the ranks and become a nabob, if you remember that card.
How could you forget?
I thought it was Nabob.
Nabob, I don't know.
Either way.
I thought it was because Bob had a dumb idea and everyone was like, nah, Bob. I apologize for nothing.
Nah, Bob.
But yeah, so they're the ones pulling the strings behind the nobility, and they are the ones working with Volrath as, agents of the larger Phyrexian plan.
Gasp.
Because there is, I think there is actually a permanent portal between Mercadia and Wrath. That's all part of this.
Oh.
And that's part of the reason why the invasion force is being staged there, because Wrath is an important part of the invasion plan. And there's Mercadia has a permanent connection to it.
Right. Cool.
Yep.
I like the part about the goblins secretly being way smarter than you would ever find anywhere else.
Yeah.
That to me feels like more of an inversion of expectations.
Yeah. So the nobles are decadent and lazy and whatever, and
Yep.
peasants are a little conniving and paranoid and stuff like that. It's a little cutthroat, but not in a super bad way, not in a Rakdos kind of cutthroat way.
Hell yeah, late stage capitalism.
Yeah.
Wait.
And the city itself is kind of weird. If I remember correctly, it's not just that it's on an upside down mountain, but there's also something funny going on with the space on that top surface of the mountain.
There
I remember
is.
people talking about, trying to go, like, seeing something off in the distance and trying to navigate there just by, going straight forward and finding themselves hopelessly turned around and on the other side of where they wanted to go. But, somehow Squee was able to find the way from place to place by taking seemingly random turns that didn't make any sense, that just kind of worked. So not only is the mountain upside down, but the space on top of it seems knotted up in a weird way that only natives and apparently goblins really know how to navigate properly.
Yeah, it says here on the wiki that the rules of physics are bent in the plane, and no one can ever travel straight from east to west across the inverted mountain. Rather, they will go in circles around the same blocks and marketplaces unless they turn opposite of the direction they wish to go. So, of course, Squeeze goofy ass could find it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like a peregrine took thing going. The closer we are to danger, the further we are from harm. That sort of thing. Seems like how Mercadia, or Mercadia City anyway, just works. And markets.
Markets.
Oh, so many markets. Who else is here? Weren't there bad guys? I saw it on here somewhere. Now I can't find it.
They were bad guys. I can't remember whether the Katarans were in the city or somewhere else in the world. I think they are in the city. Those are the mercenaries. The Katarans are the mercenary guilds.
Ah, okay.
Assassins, thieves, thugs for hire.
your run of the mill uh, city bad guys, because you've always got to have
Yes.
that in
Gotta
every
have some
sort of
bad guys.
fantasy city.
Hmm. Gotta have your thieves guild.
Yeah, even Ankh-Morpork had uh, the bad the thieves and assassins and whatnot in the shades rather.
Hmm.
Good old, what were they called? Katerans? That's right? Yeah.
Yes, Katerans.
Were they were they humans mostly?
They're mostly. I feel like they're mostly horrors.
Ugh.
There are some humans, but most of them are horrors.
That's not cool. Horrors.
At least from the cards I remember.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you think if you were living in Mercadia City, it's definitely one where, as you said, there's some intrigue and some deception where the goblins appear to be servants, but turns out they're really running the whole thing just behind the scenes. I like the art on the original. Is it Conspiracy? The Black Card Conspiracy,
Yes.
where aren't they the goblins like ganging up on somebody?
Yeah.
So yeah. But for the average person, assuming the average citizen plays along, doesn't look too close, do you think it's a relatively safe place to be? The standard of living, okay. I
Yeah.
kind
I
of get
mean, it
I
feels
kind
about
of
the
get the
same
vibe
as.
that it is. Yeah,
Yeah, it feels about the same as any other late Iron Age fantasy setting.
you don't have to really wander outside to like make a living. You don't have to go chop some trees to put in the fireplace. You're on top of a mountain, so it's probably not happening.
Hmm.
So your basic needs are met for the
Yeah,
most part.
and they do go back and forth from the mountain for resource gathering and trading and everything like that. Like they have a system of like little rope and pulley elevators to
Mm,
from the to get from the city to ground level. Like they'll go trade back and forth with Rashada and go and raid Rushwood every once in a while just to be jerks or
right.
whatever.
Like you do.
Hmm.
Rashad, that's where the pirates are, right?
Yep.
Yes, that's the seaside port, and that's where the pirates make their home. There was a small piratey sub theme in blue.
Recall. What was
Yeah.
it that those pirates did? Like when they entered the battlefield, spells cost more the next turn or something?
No,
No,
people
that
had to
that
pay mana. I had a deck built around this for a brief period
yeah,
there. People had to pay certain amount of mana based on which cards you were playing, or else something.
sacrifice a permanent.
That's what it
There was
was.
there
Yeah.
was a vertical cycle. The common one, people had to pay one or sack a permanent. The uncommon one, it was two. The rare one, it was three.
And with bounce, that gets to be kind of annoying.
Mm,
Or blink.
blink, yeah.
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 I remember. Can't remember if it was when we were in college or later than that. That there was like a run on those cards on in the online marketplaces because someone had written up someone had started distributing this like hoax rumor of this awesome Popeye Stompy vintage deck that was making the rounds. So people started buying up all the pirates for speculation, and it was just a
Ba-
stupid joke.
based based off a rumor, that is
I
hilarious.
remember that.
That is hilarious. Um, so this world still has domestic dangers, like you might be, out at sea and robbed by pirates and left for dead or whatever.
Hmm.
What about the rebels and was it you said the Rushwood? What's
Yeah,
what's going on with them?
the rebels live in the Rushwood, the Cho Aram people, um, led by Chomano, and they're
He can't
you
be
know
damaged.
you know hippies and shamans of the woods, basically. Um, they're human. They're not elves. They're humans, but they do fantasy elf stuff with where they live and what they do and what they get up to. And they're enemies of the Mercadians. There's a lot of conflict back and forth.
So they're Robin Hood living
Yeah,
in Sherwood Forest.
there you go. That's a good
Yeah.
view of it.
Whoa.
And that's where Orem ends up when the crew gets separated, and she ends up uh, becoming really sympathetic to them and striking up a rapport with Chomano, and that puts her and Gerard at odds for a little while in the story since he fell in with the Mercadians. Um, but yeah, so they're out there doing their thing. Chewie talked about the ghouls in the deep wood. There are also dryads who live in the deep wood that, like Chewie said, they were created to protect Ramos's remains. And the dryads are pretty vicious. They don't like trespassers, they don't like invaders, and they'll fight off anyone who shouldn't be there as best they can.
Cool.
Let's see, other stuff on this map. The Deep Lands. Don't know what that is. Don't even know why it's marked. Let's see.
Oh, those are those lands that are
Yeah,
They're
Deep?
so deep. Yeah.
we talked about Rashada. We talked a little bit about the Suprazan merfolk. Their city, Suprazo. I don't know whether it's under the sea or if it's
under the
surface
sea.
level.
You had to do it.
Demonetized.
Do-
Aw.
Um, I think they live underwater because I know I see in my head art from cards with scenes that are definitely underwater, and scenes that like show them carrying a land dweller down to the bottom in like a big magical bubble. Yeah, I don't know much about Suprazan culture. I don't remember very much.
That's racist. Well,
I mean, a lot of it seems kind of like Mercadia or Rashada, except underwater.
let's see here. So half of the city is underneath the Caldera Lake, the other is above the surface.
Okay, half and half.
Yeah. So there's a link there that takes you to a whole page about Suprazo. Would it be Suprazo or Suprazzo? Because of the double Z.
Good question.
I don't know.
Good question.
Yeah, I'm
Chat,
not
do you
sure.
know? Because we don't know. But anyway, let's see here. A marketplace is at the city's top near the Caldera's wall. Poorer citizens live in the upper areas, and richer people are nearer to the water. Yeah, that sounds accurate.
Okay, there's merfolk and humans who live here. Okay.
Yeah. Merfolk are the leaders and main inhabitants. Oh, and they're dear friends with the Choharim. Oh. Huh. The leader of Suprazzo is the Grand Vizier, ruler over lesser viziers and judges, in an intricate leadership system. Politics are a serious matter within the city.
Not a big surprise there.
Huh. And that's all it says. But it says it's far out to sea from Rashada. So you gotta go through pirates to get there, I guess.
I guess so.
Yar. I gotta say, of all the planes that we've talked about over the years, this one doesn't seem bad at all.
Hey?
No, not really. All the bad stuff is happening like way behind the scenes where a regular person would never even encounter it, really.
Yeah. Let's see.
Which doesn't mean it's not still happening, but
Yeah.
Yeah. I just meant it's like because so many planes. Okay, so the neat thing about Mercadia here was that it was not a destination. It was a side story. Like Brian said, it was the casino planet. I have already forgotten the name of it. From the Last Jedi.
Camino?
What?
It might be Camino, but anyway, keep going.
Something like that. I'm sure Dirk would know if he hadn't fallen asleep already. But but like there's no big bad awful thing happening here. There's no major like plot point that is centered around Mercadia. There's no giant disaster. They just, oh crap, we crashed here. Let's get the band back together. Like so we don't have, werewolves and vampires hunting everybody. Canto bite. Thank you, Violet. And we don't have like later we don't have all of the horrible Eldrazi thing mixing with the werewolves and zombies and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we don't have gods that are whatever the deal was in Amonkhet. I've blocked it because it was traumatic.
Basically, raising kids from a super early age to compete in the Olympics, and then killing the ones that didn't make it, and then killing the ones that did make it. So
It's just a glorious place.
just the worst.
So yeah, it's just like your pre-industrial fantasy world that was just doing its own thing, and all of a sudden the main characters landed, and then later they left again. And it was like, oh. And I think that's what is appealing to me, is that there's nothing centered here that's big and awful.
Yeah. It's more like the struggles. In fact, the big bad for the Weatherlight, the villain of this, the central villain, is one they bring with them, and they don't even know it. So, spoiler alert for like a 20-year-old story, but one of the crewmates, did she die? Or was she just left behind on Wrath? But she was not who she seemed to be.
I got nothing. Also, hey, Violet Moon with the 31-month resub. Violet said, just got here, so did you mention that the name of the set is the way it was because at the time they wanted all the sets and books to have the same title?
Oh.
I don't think I knew that.
No.
Well, I mean, that's a good place to... I mean, that's a good way to make sure people connect them.
But what I was referring to in the story was that one of the crew members was actually Volrath. Who was he impersonating?
Takara, Stark's daughter, who the crew had kind of gone to... Well, Stark led the crew to Wrath because he wanted to save his daughter. They were going there to try to rescue Sisay, who had been kidnapped. But turns out the Takara they brought back was not the real one.
Whoops.
Like you said, it was Volrath in disguise.
Don't you hate it when that happens?
Yep. Volrath in disguise.
Takara.
What's the pitch spell? Is it unmask or
Unmask. Mm-hmm.
yeah? That shows when she's like, and I think he Volrath ends up killing Stark.
Yep,
But-
that's depicted on Vendetta.
But then Volrath is unable to kill the rest of the crew and ends up just heading back to Wrath, only to find that things have shifted in his absence, but that's a story for another day.
Yes.
So the point being that, yeah, there's corruption here, but the big bad is more of one that just kind of tagged along, that came with them from Wrath. Now it's still it reminds me a bit of New Capenna in that everything
Mm,
seems to be fine, fairly urban setting, or like Chewie said, maybe Iron Age. So you have some of the comforts of beginnings of industry, but it's very much a don't look too closely at everything. It's certainly better than Innistrad. It's certainly better than Amonkhet, which is a don't look too close at anything, but it doesn't matter if you do or not, you're still going to die. This is more of a just corruption at the local level. The politicians are goblins are running things, and rebels are being put down, and is there a chance that society will change? Who knows? But it's much better off than a lot of places, and there's not imminent danger of Phyrexians just coming in at any point and wiping them out. I guess it is important to note that because the Phyrexians were essentially using this plane in their invasion plans, this was clearly not their target. So it's almost like it worked to Mercadia's advantage, at least in the short term. If the Phyrexians had taken over Dominaria, probably no place would be safe. But in the short term, the Phyrexians didn't care about this place. It was just a staging ground, right? So,
yes.
Hmm.
but you could live in the capital, you could go into the woods, although you might be hunted down. You could take to the high seas. Really, it's an interesting set in that because so much of early Magic was focused on Dominaria, and Dominaria was very geographically diverse because it was the setting, and so you had the different continents like Shiv and others where you have different environments. Once we started to go more along the plains hopping route, it was you saw more of the single note planes where this is
Hmm.
this is more of what defines this one, because in early Magic, Dominaria was pretty much it. So this plane is kind of interesting in that yes, there were other sets that were set elsewhere like Homelands, but uh didn't happen a whole lot. And here, having a couple different environments here, having different social structures in different parts of the plane, I think made it stand out a bit. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a little more developed than
Yeah.
some of the others that weren't named Dominaria. And it's fascinating. Also, very early for them to be like merfolk with legs. Was Mercadia ahead of its time? The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, huh.
Seems
Because
so.
there's blueprints here for what they did elsewhere. Um, Pitch spells kind of aside. That turns out when you make spells for free, duh, it's although we'd had those already because Force of Will was not from this set. So
Correct. The first cycle of pitch spells was done in alliances,
okay,
and then there were ones in Masques block. They learned the lesson a little bit, so some of them required multiple cards instead of just one.
yeah.
Some of them required alternative resources to get the mana cost free.
Hmm. Oh, Violet gave us more information. Um, while the
There's a
set
lot
was
more
in
information.
design, at the time codenamed Archimedes, the book department named the book Mercadian Masques. Mark Rosewater mentioned at the time that it wasn't a particularly good title, or good name, but as the name was for the book and not the expansion, he felt it wasn't really an issue. But then a number of months later, the Magic brand team decided that the expansion and the book should have the same name. Whoops.
Also, the first set to not be covered by the reserve list. That's
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah. For yeah, Urza Saga, Urza Block, and Wrath Block. Oh, that's right. Wrath Block happened, and then Urza Saga was like a historical interlude before they finally rejoined the crew of By the Light from Mercadian Masks. So yeah, Urza Block was the last one, but it was like that block and Wrath Block, and I think to a lesser extent Mirage Block. Like there were there was like specific. There was like some quota of cards that each had that were sent to the reserve list, with only a little bit of rhyme or reason to exactly what ended up there. And they finally just decided to do away with it, starting with Mercadia. It's like, you know what? We're not going to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
We're just going to print cards and leave ourselves open to being able to print them in the future. And, the cards, the important stuff on the reserve list was already there. So, to appease the collectors.
And given the public sentiment toward the reserve list going forward, and especially now, it certainly, I don't think anybody is saying, "Oh yeah, we wish they kept that going."
Yeah.
So.
Woohoo.
So all in all, compared to a lot of the planes we've seen, Mercadia seems relatively safe. The social structure is stable. There's a layer of corruption, but honestly, any society that is not being completely romanticized, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Blade was in a movie about that. That just
But
it's gonna happen. So you kind of got to take. There's a government. Somebody's taking advantage, right?
Yeah.
So
There
super
is
smart
some,
goblins is kind of interesting. Go ahead.
there is some conflict happening around the edges too. The Cho Aram rebels don't just sit there in the woods. They also show up and do little attacks and raids on the Mercadians as well, and the Mercadians do the same to them. I think it was actually a contingent of Cho Aram that showed up and stole away the Weatherlight with some of the crew still on it. Yeah, that's right. That's how the crew ended up separated, and Orem and some other people ended up with them because they suddenly showed up out of nowhere and carried the Weatherlight away. Because like Rushwood itself is kind of alive, and there are rivers, especially a great river, that it can just divert and on its own whims and for its own purposes, and the Cho Aram use that to their advantage to travel around.
I'm sorry.
Stuff.
Did you just say that the river could divert according to its own whims?
Well, Rushwood.
Oh.
Rushwood is alive.
Right. Okay, that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. I just got really confused for a hot second there.
Yeah. But Rushwood, can divert the Great River and the tributaries. And the Cho Aram use that to go travel around to place to place sometimes.
Full wrath in disguise. That's in my head now, Brian. Thanks for that.
You are so welcome.
So let's see. We talked about the Rushwood. The Deepwood is
trees.
Is the Yay trees. It's the sacred forest where Ramos fell. And it's where the ghouls and dryads are. And it's where Oramos sits. The city Oramos. Why do I know that word?
I don't know. I think it just looks like another word.
I think you're right, yeah. Oh, it looks like Uranus, who is Uranus. Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. But it's a city, but there's no information about the city. So I don't even know if it should be called a city. I'm very confused. I'm going to read the entire entry on the Fandom Wiki.
Exists, but I've never been there and I don't know anything about it.
Where?
Archdale.
No, that actually isn't real.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna read the entire entry on the fandom wiki for Deepwood. Deepwood is the sacred forest where Ramos fell. His resting place is guarded by undead ghouls, the risen corpses of victims of the plane shift to Mercadia. In the center of Deepwood is a clearing, where the city of Ramos sits. The telepathic dryads of Deepwood guard this place, the grave and crash landing site of Ramos, the place where his bones are housed. That's it. That's the whole
so
thing.
I guess it's a dryad city.
I guess.
Why would dryads live in a city?
And his bones are what did it say earlier? 5 power stones. So maybe they're just really big and look like buildings. I don't know.
You think that might be the what are they? Tooth, eye. Oh, what's the black one? Skull, claw, skull, heart, claw.
I would guess, yeah. Damn it, Ramos. Why are you like this? Oh, there's also hinge. Oh, that's... Never mind. I heart horn, not claw. Look at you. I heart horn, skull, and tooth. And then there's the hinge of Ramos, which... I'm not entirely sure what that means.
That's probably Uramos.
Probably. Didn't even get mentioned in a freaking card. Boo. When did we get Ramos the card?
Probably commander set. Either in a commander set or Masters or Horizons set.
Yeah, Commander 2017. I don't think I realized quite how important that character was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. At least for Mercadia. Literally no one else cares about Ramos. Ramos, boo, you suck. Well, while we're here, what's going on in Rashada? It's just a seaside city and has markets and pirates. All right, well.
Yes. And a port that makes people want to flip the table.
It's true. That card is the worst. Do you play Rashadan Port? Piss off. I mean, I guess in some formats you kind of have to.
Was Rashadan Port ever banned?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't broken. It was just a pain in the neck.
Well, I don't know. Let me look. Rashadan. It was banned in Masques block constructed.
Okay, there you go.
That sounds about right.
I guess because there wouldn't have been any answers for it, really.
That's really funny.
I'm certain Stone Rain was printed, but why would you play Stone Rain?
Do you know?
It's not like you're going to be able to cast it when you have 2 Rashadan Ports locking you down.
Do you know the other card that was banned in Masques block constructed? I bet you do.
Yep.
Do. I can picture it's the rebel that was too good at what it did.
Yes,
Yep.
Glenn Civvy, Defiant Hero.
That's the one.
Yeah. Mike, what was the thing with rebels?
Okay, so Rebels and Mercenaries had a sort of shared theme, except one was much more powerful than the other. So they each had a theme. They each had a theme of not every single one of them had this, but many of them did. You could pay some mana, tap them, and go through your deck and get a rebel or a mercenary of a certain cost and put it on the battlefield. So you could just tutor more creatures from your library directly to the battlefield. It was awesome. Now, the thing with rebels is that they traded up, and you were always paying one more than what you were getting. So, for example, the basic one, Ramosian Sergeant, costs a single white for a 1/1. The ability is pay 3 and tap, search your library, pay 3. Remember this number, pay 3 and tap, search your library for a rebel card with converted mana cost 2 or less. Put it on the battlefield and shuffle. So you pay, so a 1-drop creature, you can pay 3 mana to get a 2-drop creature. And there were rebels that had abilities like this all the way up the chain. A 2 that you could pay 4 to get a 3, and so on and so forth. I think it topped out at a 4 cost that you could pay 6 to get a 5. And that might not even have been printed until the Time Spiral set or something. Anyway, it only went so far. Maybe there was a way to get, I don't know if there was a way to get a 6. I don't know if you could go all the way up to Jovel Queen. I just can't see in my head what the pay 7 tap one was. Anyway.
It's probably fine.
Yeah, it's probably fine. Now, the mercenaries...
Same thing, but opposite.
The same thing, but the chain went down. So, for example, Katerin Brute, I think it was, cost 2 and a black, cost 3. It's a 2/2 mercenary horror, I think. I don't know. I don't think they all had species and jobs. Most of them were just mercenaries. But so this one cost 3, and it had ability where you could pay 2 and tap it to get a mercenary that cost 2 or less on the battlefield. So it wasn't as costly to get stuff, and you were always getting exactly what you paid for. But being able to go up the chain with the rebels just proved to be a much, much stronger strategy. Now the thing with Lynn Civvy was that you didn't even have to pay extra. Her ability was pay X and tap to get a rebel that cost X. So not only was it variable like that, but you weren't even having to pay extra. She also had another ability that could put rebels from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. That was pretty cool. But also with the way the legend rule worked at the time is that if there was a legend on the battlefield and another one showed up, the new one would get put into the graveyard and the old one stayed. So the first person in a mirror, the first person to hit Lynn Civvy got to keep her. And the other one was just out of luck.
I wasn't even playing. I at that point I didn't get into the game until like a block and a half later. And I already, when I got in and I was learning about Magic, I heard about the race to Lynn Civvy, which I thought, what is that? And later I was like, oh, I get it. That's crazy. It's like the opposite of how they changed it later, where with the baby Jace, the whole thing with when they replaced when they made the new Jace the Mind Slayer, the Mind Jace the Mind guy. I kind of like Mind Slayer, but
wait, do you actually not remember? Or are you being goofy?
I don't remember.
Sculptor.
It's Sculptor. Yeah. Jace the Mind Sculptor is all of a sudden people started buying the 3-cost Jace so that they had changed the legend rule. I think around Kamigawa or so, because of, hey, look, all these legends. So that the new one was the one that stayed. So somebody would play their Jace and you'd be like, ha, I have this other Jace. It's not as good, but
it wasn't the new one. It was everyone would blow up.
Yeah.
Oh,
but that was that was a Planeswalker rule, but the legend rule worked similarly. Yes, everyone blew up.
Yeah. So you play your other Jace just to get rid of their Jace.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, the crazy race for this Rebel legend was just insane. And you look at it now and you're like, I don't get it. But the fact that with the mercenaries you had to play the more expensive one first, I get what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
But
and then spend a turn having it do nothing to get a worse creature.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, if rebels didn't exist, mercenaries would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing amazing, but they would have been fine. There'd have been a neat mechanic. But the fact that rebels were in the same set meant that there was a direct comparison to one is good and one is crap. Like,
yeah.
So poor Mercs.
Oh, Marks.
Reminds me of Castlevania. Like when Dracula X came out on the Super Nintendo, it was like viewed as a watered down port of Rondo of Blood on the TurboGrafx. Which, I mean, technically it was, but it's still a damn good Super Nintendo game. It's just really hard. But because it wasn't as good as Rondo of Blood, everyone now looks at it like, Dracula X's crap is just a watered down other thing. Whereas if you ignore the rest of what was going on, it's actually good. It's fine. Mercenaries, they're fine. They've got to be okay for limited, right? Maybe.
I mean, if you draft enough of them, probably because people are passing them and nobody's passing the rebels. So, but the fact that they're there in the same set does make it like. And some of the rebels are just good. Like, I think there was a pro red and a pro white rebels, so it was easy to get out the right ones for the situation.
Those ones even had flying.
Yeah.
I don't think any of the mercenaries were just that crazy. So, alas.
Not in this set, I don't think.
Released a couple of mercenaries since then, so. Quick, let's start an online rumor that there's going to be a tier 1 mercenaries deck, like the pirates, and then everybody can buy them up. If only I had credibility left.
That's not a rumor. That's a thing that's happening.
Everyone, go buy insert mercenary here. I don't even know the names. Poor mercenaries.
Katerin's something other. I'm gonna go look up mercenaries. There are only 43 mercenaries. Wow.
Really? In all the years of the game, that is just kind of sad.
Wow. Yeah, at least the mercenary cost, I'm pretty sure Mike said this, the mercenary cost was the same as what you were getting.
Yeah.
Rather than paying one more, but you're still moving down the chain, so... God, most of these just don't do anything. They literally just have the mercenary ability. Ugh.
Yeah, there's a lot of them like that.
God, this is awful. At least Highway Robber was in the set, so you could have one that did something. That was suck 2 life out of an opponent.
Yeah. Alley Grifters has a nice saboteur ability.
Selling point for
it's if they get blocked, your opponent discards.
Oh, okay, even better.
Yeah, they were weird. Oh, there was a flying one. It's a 1/1.
Yeah, it's basically a ball gimp.
Oh, and there's a flying 2/1 too, but it has an upkeep cost. Stupid molting harpy. Wow, yeah, mercenaries are bad. Oh, there was a shade. The Primeval Shambler cost 5 for a 3/3 that had a pay a black to get +1/+1.
I forgot about the Primeval Shambler.
Here's one that can't be blocked by walls. Man, that's useful. These are... Yeah, I'm going to stop looking at these now because they're just depressing me.
Selling point for mercenaries, which is there's one that's almost good. Is that what I heard? So, join our side. We've got one guy that we're not totally ashamed of.
Anyway, if it seems like we've strayed away from our original topic, it's because honestly, there's not much to say. It turns out Mercadia has several different like places, but we don't have much information about them, and so
it is kind of a fascinating place, but we're working off of what we know versus just pure speculation. So
yeah, and like once you say what's going on, you get it. Okay, well, it's an inverted mountain, and the goblins are in charge, but they act like they're the servants. There's not much else to say after that. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I know we've talked about the story, and I think that's fascinating, and the history of it gives some credence to why things are the way they are, and that's that. That's not really a discussion. That's more just a facts.
yeah. So it's the place is pretty cool. Place is pretty cool.
Again, definitely not the worst place in the worlds to find yourself. Way worse places.
Oh yeah, like way.
Might be trying to kill you, but if you're not involved politically, you're probably all right.
All right, so here's a question:
Mm-hmm.
which part of Mercadia would you like to live in? So we've got Mercadia City, Rashada, the Rushwood, and Saprazzo look like the main places. Honestly, I wouldn't mind living in the Rushwood with the Choarum.
See, I thought about that. I am not a roughing it kind of guy. Like, I don't mind at some point. Maybe I'll go hiking or camping, but I like the outdoors. Okay, but I'm definitely used to my creature comforts. I'm just gonna be honest about that. So,
well, I mean that's because you were raised in it. I'm not saying if you ended up there, tomorrow. Although they do have the protection of the forest itself, so I get the feeling it's not quite as roughing it as just going camping. But it's not like they've got Wi-Fi in Mercadia City. Wait, do they?
They used to, but then everybody figured out the password and they had to disable it.
Oh, they disabled it because you can't have the poors having access to free Wi-Fi.
No. Turns out the password being Goblin's Rule was just a bit too obvious. So. Real quick, before we don't have to spend more time on this, but I've been meaning to ask Mike this. How did Squee end up being Nabob, and what is Nabob, like a ceremonial title, or like was he a figurehead, or was he actually like entrusted with stuff?
I don't remember the details. I just remember he somehow got to be important because the goblins there recognized how smart and capable he was.
Which is an interesting sentence.
I mean, the Squee that we know just bought a house. Maybe we can ask him.
Maybe.
I'll send him a message. Hey, Squee, how did you become a Nabob? All right. If he answers before the end of the show, then I will relay it. He probably won't, though.
Yeah.
So, back to the question. Which part do you guys want to live in?
My wife is not feeling well today, and I am being pulled away. So I am going to say my part, and then if you guys are, I'm going to go ahead and sign off just a bit early. I don't know. like you made the point earlier, of, like if I was raised there, right, versus me myself right now. I'm kind of wondering about what's the name of the ports again? Rashad.
Yeah, Rashada.
Um, yeah, Rashada, because you have a lot of freedom there. You can, they trade with the city, so you can go up there. You have access to some of those things, but just maybe the open, maybe it's the romantic in me, but the open sea, the ability to kind of go wherever you'd like. You're not tied down in one place. You're not part of the machinery of the city and that way of life. Um, but you can go there if you want. I'm thinking maybe the ports. But what do you guys think?
That's interesting. I would have said Mercadia City proper, the one on top, because there is like an undercity underneath the shadow of the mountain. But the people there like literally get dumped on from above because people at the top of the mountain just kind of throw their trash over the edge. And there's actually like a kind of it's over the years it's formed a like a protective wall around the undercity, just a big old wall of garbage.
Picturing under the plate of Midgar.
Mm, yep, yep. But you make a good point about Rashada. It's farther away from the conflict. Surprise would be cool to live in. Seems like a happening place.
Yeah.
Well,
Now that you found out that it's half above water and half under.
Yeah, especially that.
Gentlemen, this has been very interesting. I appreciate the conversation. Please continue on. I'll listen to the remainder of the episode later, see what I missed. But everyone have a good night. Okay.
All right.
Night, B.
Okay. Good night.
All right, now let's talk crap about Brian.
I won't be able to stick around too much longer either. But
Well, where you want to live then, Dirk? You've been quiet the whole episode.
I would agree with Rashado. Be by the seaside city. That sounds like a good place to be. Not in the big bustling city where you think you're the main attraction, only to find out no, the goblins are pulling the strings behind the scene. And all the other crazy places out there, I think I'm good with Rashada.
So the question is, would out of Brian and Dirk, who's more likely to become a pirate? I'm thinking Dirk.
I think me, but I do need a good bookkeeper.
Wait, but so is Carrie there too? I'm so confused.
So,
Yeah.
but that's my thought. All right, I've got to run. I got a big long trip tomorrow.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
Hey, where are you going?
So for my final thought for the evening, my father-in-law is now officially retired, and
wow.
he has planned a trip to Wilmington tomorrow, where I'm going to take the boys. We're going to go to Wilmington to go see the battleship. Leighton is all about World of Warships, and he likes battleships and everything else, and so we're going to go take him to see the battleship North Carolina.
That's cool.
It's been a little while since I've seen it, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right then.
Well, that ends my final thought. So I'm off to bed. You guys all have a wonderful evening.
All right. Night, Zerk.
Bye, guys.
Right.
It's amazing how fast everyone disappears all at once.
Yeah.
But yeah, we sort of trailed off for a while there because, again, like Mercadia is neat and all, but it's not terribly complicated. It's not deep.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, there's not No, not really.
Yeah, I would still put it not necessarily at the top, but pretty close to the top of the planes we've talked about.
Mm,
Like, I think I'd rather live in Ravnica, honestly, but
yeah. It's interesting. I'm sure that lack of depth is a big part of. Um, so I think most people know about the storm scale that Mark Rosewater kind of established for going back to mechanics, but there's also a Arabia scale for going back to planes,
yeah.
and it goes from 1 to 10, with 1 definitely yes, 10 definitely not, unless some major miracle happens. And Mercadia scored a 9.
Oof.
Yeah, just because of the lack of depth and the way it was received the first time around. Because another thing is that there was this perception that it didn't have anything new in it. Partly because there weren't any like new named keywords. Because sets used to have like, okay, 2 or 3 new named keywords. That was the thing. Or keyword abilities or ability words. That was the thing. That's part of what the set is about. Let's go. And Mercadia did not have any of those.
Yeah, it had new mechanics with
Mm-hmm.
the spell shapers and the mercenaries and
Yep.
the rebels, but they didn't
Mm-hmm.
have catchy names.
Nope.
And I remember reading articles back in the day about how they really believed that that did in fact hurt because it was widely known at the time as the set with no mechanics, even though it's got lots of mechanics.
Yes, plenty.
So yeah, good point. Well, I don't know. They went back to Kamigawa. Like,
They did. They found a way. They found a really cool, great way.
so I'm pretty sure they could figure something out if they wanted to. Not that I'm
Yeah,
in any
it
rush
can
for
be
them
done.
to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of a bummer to have such a short episode for our first one back, but unless Mike and I can somehow manage to Mike's BS for like half an hour, then yeah, this is gonna be a short one. Good old Mike's BS. I found that picture again in my phone and was like, yeah.
Yeah, I happened to come across it not too long ago too. It's good.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Bill sent me a picture of Jersey Mike's subs, like the lit up sign, except the left side was out, so all it said was Mike's BS, and it's just beautiful. Oh, Squee has answered. He said, "For me, it was that old commercial that let me choose a career path from the comfort of my own home. It was a close call between Nabob and TV VCR repair." So there you go. That's how Squee became Nabob. He first asked, "Wait, you mean in the Magic story?" I was like, "Or you personally, whichever." All right then. Oh, we were supposed to talk smack about Brian. Oh, Brian
Oh,
sucks.
yeah.
That's all I got really. I kind of like Brian, even though he sucks. But okay then. Well, how about you then, Mr. Beardy Man? You got any sort of thoughts that may or may not be final?
Um, let's see here. for all its weirdness, I really enjoyed Mercadia as a set and as a story, because you could still get a lot just by looking at the cards. It was one of the sets that was built up that way, and it was cool and interesting to see the Crew by the Light again after the break that was taken at the end of Exodus. That was one of the ones where the power pendulum swung back. It's coming off of Tempest block and coming off of Urza block. It was a pullback really hard to take the general power down, slow the game down a little bit. Not have so many ridiculous things. And it was perceived as boring or powered down or clunky by some people, but there's a lot of neat stuff in there. There's a lot of enjoyable stuff in there. There is a lot of actually clunky and bad stuff in there, but that's not all it is.
I mean, that's also true of like every
Magic
set, as we have learned over the years doing the Mythic conscriptions. Like, wow, there's a lot of crap in here, y'all.
Yeah. Man, all these cards are terrible. Why do we even play this game?
We're the worst.
Yeah, that's the extent of it.
Well, fair enough. I got nothing really as far as Mercadian Masques goes, because I wasn't playing at the time. Like, it's never a thing that I've engaged with much. So yeah, what have I got going on? Hey, I finally started playing Doom, the 2016 Doom.
Cool.
Continuing the franchise run that I started oh so long ago, and it is awesome. Although I keep getting hung up searching for secrets. Like, seriously hung up. Like, I see the secret. How do I get there? So that sort of is a little frustrating that I keep doing that. Not that I can't figure out how to get there. It's that I'm streaming and I keep standing there looking at walls going, how do I get there? And I can't seem to make myself, okay, just go. You can come back and get it later, you idiot. Nope. I'm like, okay, I can get it. It's right there, damn it. I'm going to get it. I swear. But, like, the combat takes the old school, insane 2D, classic Doom and ramps it up to 3D in a beautiful way. I know it's like a 7-year-old game now, but I've never played it before, so bite me.
Yeah.
And, like, your weapon choice matters a lot based on what enemies you're facing. Your the weapon mods that you have installed on your weapons matter a lot. And, the various upgrades and whatnot. You can upgrade all kinds of stuff. It's crazy. Which is why you explore, because the more you explore and the more stuff you find, the more points you get for upgrading your character or your weapons. And so it's pretty great. And there are a lot of challenges. Like, I found out I upgraded the grenade launcher mod for the shotgun. I upgraded it all the way, and to get the final upgrade, there's a challenge of, get a direct hit on, I think it was like 20 or 30 imps using this weapon. So I was like, oh, cool. So whenever I saw imps, I would switch to that and try to line up a shot and hit them directly, which is awesome. That, it lets me meta game while I'm gaming, you know. And it's been a lot of fun. There's all kinds of challenges. Like, in order to, you get runes that are like modifiers, you know, like you can vacuum in health and ammo pickups from further away, and you upgrade it by picking up things that enemies drop. Oh, okay, well, stuff like that. Like I had one where you have to do some number of death from above glory kills. Oh my god, the glory kill system, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get an enemy close to dead, they'll flash, and you can run up and hit the melee button and do a finisher, which causes them to bleh out some health and ammo.
Oh, good.
And it is glorious because there are several different kills, you know, for each enemy, so it doesn't get boring quickly. And also it incentivizes it by giving you health and ammo, and they're all like just quick enough to make you give you a second to like get okay. And they're all very satisfying. They're very satisfying, Mike. So yeah, I've really been enjoying it. That's what I've been streaming lately. When I have been streaming, because
Yeah.
To get slightly personal, extremely personal, but if you're in the Discord, you probably know this already. I met a girl, and she is a game changer. She's awesome, and the problem is she's leaving in a very short period of time, so we're trying to get as much time together as possible before she wanders off across the damn country. Timing is just the worst. But yeah, that's why I haven't been streaming as much, because I love y'all and all, but you know, those of you that are gonna be here are gonna be here if I take, you know, 2 weeks and don't stream much. Whereas she won't. So yeah. Her name is Renee, by the way. Mike met her.
Yeah. It's great.
Which is something special in and of itself, because I don't just randomly introduce the girls that I'm dating to my friends until we've been dating a while. Like, the only reason you met Amanda was because we had to go to the Swift concert.
Right.
So yeah, it's awesome. I've been deliriously happy for the last little while, and then at some point, and I'll continue to be so until she leaves, and then I'll be devastated, and I will humbly ask for everyone's support, because it's going to be rough. But anyway, we should wrap this up though, because she's on her way over. She should be here any minute, actually. So yeah. But we can't leave until I thank our mythic lifeguards. You too can go to patreon.com/themanapool. Let me try that again. The Manapool. No, Patreon. Jesus Christ. Patreon.com/themanapool. There we go. And become a lifeguard. I'm getting caught up on the odds and ends for real, by the way. All of the old ones are up. It's now just current ones, which is awesome. And I got another one posted just a couple days ago. It's very exciting to finally see the end of that tunnel. But our mythic lifeguards get the sponsorship shout out, of course. So let me thank, in whatever this default order is, Al, Kim, no, hang on. As of this month. There we go. Al, Kim Ho, Scuzzo, John Parker, Jake Jansons, Mike? I wonder who that is. Timu Hillis Haru, Jason Kaus, Cody Buckowing, Casey, Pinball Witch, Jason Doan, Mr. Dr. Lewis, Connor Kennedy, ALK Alters, and Andrew Odie. Thank you all so very much. And to all of the lifeguards at every tier, and to all of you out there listening or watching or whatever it is you're doing, we appreciate it. Because without you, we'd just be talking to ourselves, and we'd have gotten sick of it just years ago. I don't even necessarily like these guys that much. Especially not Brian. He sucks. Uh-oh. Did I lose? Did I break something? Mike, you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh. I just didn't hear any background noise from you even, and I was like, did I screw something up? Okay, good. But anyway, it's the end of the episode, so... Of course, it would only be right to screw something up right here at the end. But alright, so this has been episode 682 of the Mana Pool. Be sure to let us know if you would like to live on Mercadia and where. And yeah, that'll be that. So, thank you all so very much for joining us. And be sure to not live in the underwater part of Soprazzo.